Your employer is holding money that already belongs to you. Not a bonus, not a raise you have to ask for. Money they agreed to hand over, written into the plan documents with your name on it. Every month you don't collect it, it doesn't wait. It never leaves their side of the ledger. Nobody sends a letter. Over 20 years, one study put the size of what the average person misses at just under $43,000. $43,000 from money that was already offered. There is a specific reason almost nobody claims it, and it is not laziness. I'll show you exactly where it starts. In 2015, a firm called Financial Engines went through the saving records of 4.4 million people across 553 companies. Not a survey, records. 1 in every 4 was not putting in enough to trigger the full amount their employer had agreed to add. The typical person in that group was leaving $1,336 a year, about 2.4% of their income, uncollected. Across the country, $24 billion a year, modeled forward over 20 years, allowing for growth. That gap came to $42,855. Now, that figure is a model, not a promise. Nobody can guarantee you. But the gap at the front of it isn't a projection. That part is real money, offered and not taken. Let me tell you about a woman. We'll call her Denise. Denise is 44, an administrator for a school district. 16 years in the same job. She earns $46,000. She has a daughter at community college, a mother whose prescription she covers, and a brother who calls when the car breaks. On her first day, HR gave her a folder. Inside was a form with a box for a percentage, and she wrote 2, because 2% was what she could stand to lose from a paycheck already spoken for. Nobody in that room told her the number in that box was a key. Her employer matches 50 cents on the dollar, up to 6% of her salary. Denise put in 2, so she gets 1. 6% of $46,000 is $2,760. Half of that, $1,380, is what her employer was ready to add every year. Denise collects $460, $920 a year, left on the shelf. 16 years, same box, same 2, $14,700, before a cent of growth. I want to be careful here because there is a version of this conversation that blames Denise, and that version is wrong. 2% was not stupidity. 2% was arithmetic. When your paycheck already carries your mother's prescriptions and your daughter's textbooks, every point you defer is a real thing you do not buy this month. Denise was being responsible with the information she had. That part is true. That part stays. But here is what nobody in that room said out loud. Think about the shelf at the back of the supermarket. The one with the offer on it. Buy one, get one free. The way that shelf works is precise. The free tin is real. It is sitting right there. It has already been paid for by somebody who isn't you. But it will not move unless you put your own tin in the trolley first. That's the whole mechanism. Your tin is the trigger. And the shop is not going to chase you down the aisle. No assistant taps you on the shoulder and says, "Madam, you've only taken 1. The offer sits there, correctly labeled, entirely legal, completely silent. Now imagine you walk past that shelf every fortnight for 16 years. Not once, 400 times. You pick up your 1 tin, you pay full price, you go home, and the free tin goes back into stock. That is the match. That is exactly the match. But the tin on that shelf is not the only thing your employer is holding. There is a second offer written into the tax code with a hard dollar figure attached to it. And the reason you have never heard of it is the same reason Denise wrote 2 in that box. For most of the 20th century, a worker did not have to understand any of this. You took a job, you stayed, the company paid a pension. Your job was to show up. Then in 1978, Congress passed the Revenue Act, and buried inside it was a subsection numbered 401k, written for deferring bonuses. Then a benefits consultant named Ted Benna read the wording and saw something far larger. Within a generation, it had turned over. In 1979, 38% of private sector workers had a traditional pension. Today, around 13%. The risk moved. The choosing moved. The maths moved. Off the company's desk, onto yours. The teaching did not move with it. And in many plans now, nobody even asks. You are enrolled automatically at a default percentage the plan picked, very often below the level that unlocks the full match. The system parks you under the ceiling and calls it participation. The study broke it down by income. Among people earning under $40,000, 42% were missing part of their match. Among people over $100,000, 10%. The people with the least room are missing the most. That is not a coincidence. That is a system built on the assumption you'd been taught something nobody taught you. Nobody sat Denise down and explained that the percentage box was a trigger, not a preference. Nobody told her the match had a ceiling and she was standing underneath it. No teacher explained what a matching formula was in a building full of teachers. Nobody at church, across 20 years of stewardship sermons, ever said the words employer match out loud. And her parents could not tell her, because her parents had a pension, and a pension doesn't ask you any questions. Not one person in her life failed her on purpose. That is what makes this systemic instead of personal. If nobody ever told you either, that's what this channel is for. I'm not selling you a system. I'm printing the blueprint nobody handed us. Subscribe and I'll keep printing it. There is a line in Proverbs I think about constantly with this. Chapter 27, verses 23 and 24. English Standard Version. Know well the condition of your flocks, and give attention to your herds, for riches do not last forever. Notice what it does not say. Not get more flocks, not work harder, or pray louder, or give more. The instruction is no. Go and look. Count what is actually standing in your field. Because a man could own 100 sheep and, not knowing it, live like a man who owns 40. The wealth does not change. What changes is whether he can see it. Denise had an offer standing in her field for 16 years. Nobody ever told her to go out and count. So go back to that supermarket. This time, read the label. The offer was always written down, printed, dated, on display. Denise never read hers, not because she couldn't, but because nobody had suggested the label was for her. When she finally did, the match was not the only thing on it. There was $5,250 a year her employer was permitted to put toward education, tax-free. Not a perk somebody invented. It sits in Section 127 of the tax code. It covers student loan repayments too, and it is there whether anybody claims it or not. Her daughter is at community college. That one was on the shelf for both of them. And there was a condition she had never heard anybody say out loud. Vesting. On many plans, the employer's share is not fully yours until you have been there a set number of years. 3, sometimes 5. Leave early, and part of it walks out of the door with you. Denise had 16 years, so every dollar was hers. But she spent all 16 not knowing. Same shelf, same 16 years. All of it printed. There is a name for what Denise lost, and it is not a missed bonus. A bonus is a gift. This was never a gift. It was compensation. Agreed, budgeted, allocated to her, and left standing in the field because nobody handed her the map. That is the uncollected wage. Not money you failed to earn, money you earned and never collected. which gives you the blueprint. One sentence. Your pay is the whole offer, not the number on the payslip. The payslip is a summary, the part of your compensation that was easy to print. The rest, the match, the education money, the vesting clock already running, is your wage too. Negotiated on your behalf, then filed somewhere you were never invited to look. And the file has a name. It is called the Summary Plan Description, and you are entitled to ask for it. 4 words. That is the whole ask. I am not telling you what to do with any of it. I am telling you it exists, and that reading your own offer is not greed. It is the counting Proverbs asked for. When Denise finally sat down with hers, she did not cry, and she did not change her contribution that afternoon. Her budget was still her budget. Her mother still needed her prescriptions. What changed was smaller than that, and bigger. She stopped thinking of her job as a number that lands on the 28th and started thinking of it as an offer she was allowed to read. She printed it and put it in the drawer with the birth certificates, because that is where important documents live. Her salary had not moved $1. Her understanding of what she was owed had moved 16 years. And the next time her daughter was handed a folder on her first day, Denise asked to see it. If you are doing the maths on your own 16 years right now, stop. You were not careless. You were handed a form in a room where nobody explained the form by a system that quit teaching this the same decade it started requiring it. Missing something you were never shown is not a character flaw. It is the predictable result of a blueprint nobody printed. And the tin is still on the shelf. Not the ones you walked past. Those are gone, and grieving them costs you the ones ahead. But you are going to work again next month. There is an offer attached to that month. You were created for abundance. Nobody gave you the blueprint. Go and read your label. There is one more thing sitting in that same folder, and this one does not just cost you while you are alive. It decides who receives what after. Most people fill it in once, at 23, and never look at it again. One last thing. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is personal financial advice. I'm someone who went looking for the blueprint nobody handed us, and I'm just passing on what I found. What you do with it is between you and God.